Hey, good morning you guys, and welcome back to our Northford timber frame videos here on YouTube. We're here this morning to talk about the class of 2013. Here we are a week before Thanksgiving, and I wanted to bring you down to one of our older projects today. This is a timber frame barn that we restored 16 years ago. But believe it or not, this barn used to sit about 200 feet this way. So a couple of quick things I'd like to point out to you before we go inside. There's actually a clock tower up on this barn, which of course is in the same shape as a cupola and some of the other projects that you've seen us do. The faces that are up on the clock here, those were made in England. And that round rim that goes around the clock, we made that out of cypress. And boy, what a pleasure it was to work with that cypress. I remember 16 years ago cutting it out on the bandsaw, making a fixture to cut the ID and the OD. But what you might find fascinating is the clockworks is from a church in New Hampshire, I believe about 1860. So it's actually an official pedestal type clockworks like you saw in our YouTube video that we did in Lexington, Massachusetts last year. And then the other really cool thing I'd like to point out to you guys is these hinges. When we worked for Mr. Crump here to restore this building and make it into his clock restoration shop, I had the idea to have those hinges made for him as a surprise. So we commissioned a local blacksmith here in Connecticut to do those hinges, and we actually installed them on Thanksgiving morning, and we had Kurt stay inside his house, and when he came out and saw those clock hinges, he was overwhelmed with emotion, and of course I got that way too, because he realized the hinges that we had made were clock hands. By the way, where we're located this morning is down in Madison, Connecticut, and we're at Crumps Clocks, and that's Crumps with a C. And Mr. Crump, or Kurt Crump, has been restoring clocks since back in the 70s. He trained in England and Switzerland and is very well known throughout our country as being one of the top restoration experts on 18th century timepieces. This is the entrance door to the clock shop, and very typical of many of the doors that we've built on a lot of our projects. It's a big, thick, heavy door, which I always get a kick out of making these big doors for the projects, because somehow I think it looks like a big castle door. This is just a dog leg or a stop to hold the door open in the wind. And I was inspired to do this sort of design by a gentleman named Sam Meloff. And there's a lot of his books out there where he used to do very artsy hinges and stuff made out of tree branches and tables made out of stumps. And he used to make all kind of wooden hinges. So I kind of came up with this idea based on some of the things I'd seen in his books. Why don't you guys come on in here and you'll see what a great little place this is. So I'm never sure when I bring a group of students down here what's the most interesting thing about coming into this clock shop. If it's really the timber frame, it takes a back seat to what's going on inside here. And that is all these many wonderful antique clocks. I just would point out this dovetailed butternut patch that's in the girt there, where there was a rotted spot, and I just happened to have a piece of butternut in my shop that day. So here we are 16 years later still looking at that dovetailed butternut patch. So one of the other extraordinary things about this building is it's actually a flame birch floor, which is curly yellow birch, and it came from up in southwestern Vermont. And I remember the day that Mr. Crump and I went up actually to get this floor, and it fits the shop well. Great big transom window over those double doors there, which were the early farm doors. So this was an early hay barn, which would have stored possibly a little livestock, possibly a tractor or some hay wagons, and certainly lots of hay. How do you fit a bathroom into a big, open, beautiful space like this, where you don't want to infringe or take away from the look of it? And actually, it worked out pretty well here, where this little bathroom fit in, and it serves them quite well. Fit into the corner of the timber frame, As you can see, the braces are still showing, and there's a great little window inside there, a 9-pane handmade window with hand-blown glass. So if you give it some thought, there's always a way to design and get a bathroom to fit neatly into a timber frame. Not sure how much these show, but there's some giant curved cherry braces here, which actually came from a tree that was harvested in the lot next door. And actually this summer beam up above here is an 8x15 hunk of cherry. And that came from one tree that was also in the woodlot next door. And as I recall, it's around 22 feet long. Once again, one of our two-piece traditional staircases. This timber is actually flame birch, the same as the floor. And that was just totally coincidental that I found it at a sawmill up in western Massachusetts at Lemoore Lumber, which is just above Deerfield, Massachusetts. But I found this in his timber pile, and I know that he had no clue that it was flame birch. And the only reason that I did was because I'd been working with the floor. So once again, our two-piece staircase, which, you know, is kind of one of our trademarks to build one of these two-piece staircases, because it doesn't take away from the floor space or your open floor plan that you have in your timber frame. It makes for easy access, lots of headroom, and it always gives you that storage space under the landing, which in this particular barn, as in many other of our timber frames, the electrical panel is there, there's a coat closet there, and it makes really good storage. Here's a really interesting shot of that, one of those curved cherry braces coming down and sitting in a little housed dovetail onto a gunstock timber. So heading upstairs to the second floor here, that's always been one of my favorite barn blessings, that's for sure. So you can see the tower clock that came from a church in New Hampshire. How do we build that into the clock tower / cupola up above? And we came up with the idea for this wooden frame, which I always called a wooden basket. And it was pretty neat because we were actually able to put the clock onto the wooden basket, which we built with an open plan so you can actually see it. What we did was we fashioned 2 come-alongs up above, and we just lifted up the whole wooden basket and the clockworks and everything right up into the clock tower where we secured it. The newel post here has 2 acorns to sit on top of these posts, which are locust. This is locust, black locust, and that post is also black locust. And these are turned out of cherry, where we had stained the lower half of it a darker wood and left the top of it natural, kind of to weather and look like a natural acorn would look. These short queen posts, which actually sit on top of this gable end tie beam. And if you remember the big cherry beam that was down below me here, you know, we would call that a summer beam. So we had the opportunity to redesign this very simple hay barn and create this actually multi-level, very small building, which actually when you're inside of it doesn't feel small. It actually feels quite large. Up here in the hayloft, this second floor height is probably close to 14 or 15 feet. Even with these short queen posts, we were able to get a really nice effect up here.